Tencent's new AI model thinks way faster than ChatGPT or DeepSeek, and Inception Labs just introduced Mercury, a completely new way of generating text that's insanely efficient and ahead of everything else. Then there's OpenAI's GPT-4.5, but it's not what you think. And finally, we've got Octave, a TTS model that gives AI real emotional intelligence. AI is moving fast, so let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off with Tencent's latest release. Hanyuan Turbo S launched on February 27th. Turbo S is touted as a fast-thinking model, which is quite different from the so-called slow-thinking models like DeepSeek R1 and Hanyuan T1. Basically, most large models take a second or two to think before giving an answer. But Turbo S is designed to respond almost instantly, effectively doubling the speaking speed and reducing initial latency by a hefty 44%. That means we're talking near instant answers, no more waiting around for your model to process data line by line. In terms of performance, Hanyuan Turbo S matches the big league players out there. According to various widely used benchmarks, it's going head-to-head with business models like DeepSeek V3, GPT-4.0, and Claude in fields like general knowledge, mathematics, and even more logic-oriented reasoning tasks. Under the hood, Turbo S relies on a hybrid-Mamba transformer fusion approach. This architecture is all about cutting down the computational complexity you often run into with standard transformer structures. It also decreases KV cache usage during inference, making the entire training and inference process cheaper. Tencent says the hybrid-Mamba transformer design specifically tackles the high costs associated with pure transformer structures when you're dealing with longer texts. Essentially, they combined the efficiency of Mamba, which excels with long sequences, and the context-capturing strengths of transformers. The result? A model that can handle huge memory loads but still remain cost-efficient. The folks at Tencent also claim that this is the first time Mamba architecture has been applied successfully to a super large MoE, mixture of experts model, without any performance loss. All of that basically boils down to lower deployment costs for enterprises. But Turbo S is just part of Tencent's bigger Hanyuan ecosystem. They're positioning it as the foundational model that will power things like code generation, inference tasks, and long text processing. And if you're a developer or enterprise user, you can already call Hanyuan Turbo S through Tencent Cloud's API for free for about a week. After the trial, pricing stands at 0.8 yuan per million tokens for input and 2 yuan per million tokens for output. So if you're on Tencent's Yuanbao platform, you can try it in grayscale by picking the Hanyuan model and turning off deep thinking. Talk about a neat way to test drive a brand new system. All right, moving on, let's talk about Inception Labs Mercury, a total game changer for those who are curious about new ways to do text generation. Mercury is dubbed the first commercial diffusion-based language model, also called DLLM. Now, you might be thinking, hey, diffusion is for images and videos, right? Typically, yes. Think Midjourney or OpenAI's Sora. But Mercury uses a coarse-to-fine approach to generate text in parallel rather than predicting tokens one by one, as traditional LLMs do. The big claim here is that Mercury can run up to 10 times faster than classic sequential language models. According to Inception Labs, we're looking at generation speeds of over 1,000 tokens per second on NVIDIA H100 GPUs. For context, you usually need specialized hardware like Grok or Cerebras accelerators to get anywhere near that kind of throughput. Mercury's diffusion trick basically starts with a rough draft of the text and then refines it simultaneously. Early benchmarks suggest Mercury is holding its own against well-known speed-optimized models like GPT-4.0 Mini from OpenAI and Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Haiku. And the kicker is that it does all this at way lower latency, which could be a massive win for code generation, customer support, or enterprise automation scenarios where speed is of the essence. Even respected AI figures like Andrej Karpathy are paying attention, calling Mercury's diffusion approach an intriguing departure from the usual autoregressive techniques. Inception Labs says they're marketing Mercury as a drop-in replacement for existing models, offering both an API and on-pre deployments. It'll be interesting to see whether the approach gains mainstream traction, because if it does, it might open up a whole new era for text generation, especially for real-time applications that demand ultra-fast responses. Now, let's jump to OpenAI's GPT-4.5. Yeah, the next iteration in the GPT lineup. It officially launched, and according to OpenAI, GPT-4.5 offers notable enhancements in contextual understanding, emotional nuance, and even advanced problem solving. They've also put a lot of work into reducing hallucinations, those weird moments when an AI model just makes stuff up, and aligning better with human feedback. So if you're a developer who's used previous GPT versions, GPT 4.5 might be a lot more reliable out of the box. It's initially available to ChatGPT Pro users and developers via API, but they plan to roll it out more broadly soon. The model is multimodal, which means it can handle text, images, and even file processing. Plus, it's multilingual, so it's good at generating and understanding content in multiple languages, which is huge for global teams. Another big highlight is the use of advanced training methods like reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, that basically helps GPT 4.5 better align its answers with what users want, and it also leverages scalable alignment techniques. In simple terms, that means it can learn effectively from curated data sets while still being highly efficient to run. They've put a spotlight on improved reasoning too, so GPT 4.5 is more adept at tackling fields where logic and detail matter, like legal research, scientific exploration, or debugging code. And if you like stats, GPT 4.5 apparently surpasses older models in accuracy, factuality, and overall creative intelligence. It even integrates nicely with APIs, which means advanced function calls and automation can be embedded into your workflow. For example, you might ask GPT 4.5 to make a function call to a database, parse the result, and then give you a final answer in structured form. Looking ahead, OpenAI says, GPT 4.5 is basically paving the way for even more advanced reasoning-based systems. They also mention that it's available on multiple platforms, web, mobile, and desktop, exclusively for pro users at first, but with expansions to more user tiers in the coming weeks. If you're an enterprise that wants to get in on this, it sounds like now's the time to jump, because they're focusing on providing robust, reliable features for business applications. Finally, let's talk about HumeAI's Octave, a brand new text-to-speech AI model that has a knack for emotional intelligence. Octave came out on February 26th, and it's different from typical TTS in that it can interpret not just the text, but also the context and emotional tone behind that text. Traditional TTS usually just reads words with a fairly flat or generic prosody, but Octave is meant to produce output that actually matches the emotional nuance of your input. For instance, if you type something like, "Are you serious?" in an exasperated tone, Octave aims to capture that feeling in the generated speech. They even tease an example called Goblin Auctioneer, which presumably has some comical, dramatic flair to it. HumeAI focuses on bridging the gap between mechanical-sounding voices and something closer to authentic human communication. So if you're building virtual assistants, automated customer support lines, or accessibility tools, you might find that Octave's ability to capture context, and maybe even personality, could be game-changing. The model also offers a host of customizable features so you can tweak the emotional delivery. That could be really useful for things like interactive storytelling or brand-specific voice personas. Under the hood, Octave uses advanced natural language processing and speech synthesis approaches with a big emphasis on emotional context. According to HumeAI, that sets it apart from other TTS systems that only focus on clarity and speed rather than nuanced expression. What's neat is that Octave might open the door to a variety of new creative applications. Imagine a podcast or audiobook with voices that can shift mood depending on the scene, or an educational tool that can change its tone to keep students engaged. Hume is also letting users try out Octave on their platform, which suggests they're looking for real-world feedback to refine it further. So yeah, it's been a crazy week for AI developments. Let me know in the comments which one you find the most exciting, or if you're planning to try any of them out. As always, thanks for tuning in, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more updates on all things AI and tech.